When it comes to multiplayer shooters, I think the more difficult ones have an expiration date right out of the gate. I came to this conclusion while playing Rainbow Six Siege when realizing someone that's been playing for the last month and a half will not be able to compete with someone that's been playing for the last year and a half. The nice thing about Call of Duty and Battlefield and even games like Titanfall and Destiny is that they're easy to pick up. Yes, they're hard to master and it's going to be a long time before you're consistently confident, but they're intuitive. They don't focus on nuanced complexities. I know Overwatch does take a fair amount of skill, but even Overwatch doesn't have a lot of nuance to it. And the amount that it does have is dwarfed by milsim games like Squad or Red Orchestra or Arma, and it's also dwarfed by games like Rainbow Six Siege or Counter-Strike Go. Those games have a much longer list of things to memorize and understand, and it takes a while. It genuinely takes a long time. When I first picked up Rainbow Six Siege, I got an ace on my 3rd day of owning it with Capcan, and then after that I did terrible for the rest of the day, I did terrible for the next day, and terrible the next day. I'm not saying you can't have some beginner's luck, you can't get lucky a little bit, you can't just be in a good mood and then, you know, just kind of like flow with the match a little bit. But the more difficult games that I just mentioned don't really rely on kind of this blind ignorance, kind of like I do with Call of Duty. When a new COD comes out or a new Battlefield comes out or something along those lines, I kind of like to go into it not knowing much about it. Go to the more difficult shooters and the games don't really become fun until you know everything about it, where each article of information you learn about the game enhances your ability to perform in it. The thing is after a while, the game might accumulate a very sizable fan base, but after a couple years, nobody's going to want to touch it. Nobody new is going to want to touch it. It can't grow past a certain point. There's so much to do, there's so much to learn, and there's no better way to say it than you'll just be behind. I am now level 80 in Rainbow Six Siege. I have played a lot recently. I think I've gotten more confident with my aim and situational, just, confidence and awareness. But I am still nowhere near somebody that's been playing for the last year. It's not like Call of Duty where, again, it's easy to pick up and understand. It prides itself on its intuitiveness, and there's a big place for that, and those games need to exist. Because although those games might not always double their player base with every iteration into the franchise, when a new person picks it up, they will not be blown out of the water. Now, still in Call of Duty going up against me, if you were a new player, you would have a very bad time. But Call of Duty, Battlefield, and all these other games are much more forgiving. I know a lot of Battlefield fanboys, a lot of the ones that came from Call of Duty see Battlefield as this like extension of the real military. But really, you can go a whole Battlefield match without ever seeing combat. You could just goof around with a sniper rifle and try to land headshots, or, sit in a corner with an LMG with a suppressor on it in Battlefield 4 or something along those lines. You're really not going to be punished brutally for not being confident in the game. The game kind of actually caters to people that don't have that confidence. I think actually Call of Duty is much more ruthless, but it's still intuitive enough that a noob can get some kills on a pro, or do some nonsense and ruin somebody's streak, with a bouncing Betty. It's one of the reasons I don't like COD World War II is that every time I round a corner, there's a bouncing fucking Betty. And I'm not saying games like Counter-Strike and Rainbow Six Siege, they don't have those kind of like easy kills that, anybody can get. I'm not saying they don't. Here's what I'm trying to say in a very clunky manner. I think that complicated games will die a lot faster. They have their fate sealed because when it came to Counter-Strike Go and me, I had played Counter-Strike in the past. I was looking forward to playing it, but every match I played, I was outmatched. Counter-Strike Go is almost a decade old, and some people have been longtime players since then. But even if you've been playing for half of that time, that's still 5 fucking years. Or 4.5 or something, leave me alone. This is why developers don't want to make a game or a franchise that's more challenging and technical, because it will alienate people down the line. In 3 years, when Rainbow Six Siege is getting closer to its 100 operator goal, and the game is going to have all these different operations and patches, and old tip videos won't matter anymore, people will have to make new ones, tons of operators, tons of things to buy, ton of things to save up for. 3 years from now, nobody's going to want to pick up Rainbow Six Siege for the first time. Now there is one way to counter this. If you wanted to get into a game that's had a long life cycle, and you wanted to get good at it, and you wanted to enjoy a game that people have been playing for 5 years, and you're going to be fighting people that are infinitely more proficient than you, go with friends. Go with friends. I guarantee you, if you get into a match of a game that's been out for 6 years, or 4 years, or 3 years, that you have little to no experience in, go in with some lighthearted friends, or find like-minded noobs, and get good with somebody. I personally think that's the only way to counter it, because if you're a longtime FPS fan that maybe wants to play a game they missed out on and can't do it because the player base is just not going to let you have anything, you will not have a fun time if you have never played Counter-Strike Go and you hopped on your PC and played it right now. You would not have a fun time guarantee it. Unless maybe you pack a friend. A while back I was told that I ask better questions than I do answer them. And in a way that's a bit of a compliment, because asking questions leads to more results. I'm not here to tell you guys what's up or what's going on or that I'm right. I'm just sharing my perspective on things. But I want to hear from you guys. How do you think games can incentivize new players to get into old games? Or do you think older games that have years and years behind them, that have extremely seasoned players on them, do you think those games are just kind of cursed to create some sort of cult fan base until it dies? What do you guys think about this topic? I want to hear from you guys. I like complex shooters. I've been getting into them more and more with Milsims and Rainbow Six, and I like them. It's a nice break from Call of Duty and Battlefield and Destiny and Doom and Titanfall and all that. I love those types of games, but honestly, I need something a little bit more engaging. So what tips do you have to new players of things? My tip is to go in with friends. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. And yeah, this is just a topical video for the sake of conversation, you might say. And anyway, I'm gonna go now before I get really cringy. See you when I see you guys. Goodbye.
I need you to watch my range on that.
Watching the right.
I'm not peeking that. Fuck that. And I'm dead. Never mind. Fucking crappy pile. Jesus. Oh, he's
it's a quad feed!
Frosted. Are you gonna ace?
Yes, I am! Oh my fucking god!
With a pistol, you ace.
Against a pre-aiming Ying!
A pre-firing Ying?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You almost made me choke it though by saying, are you gonna ace?
Hacks.
I got a quad feed in Rainbow Six Siege.